Hello everyone, and welcome to another talk here. It's probably going to be a little bit of a noisy one today, so I might hear some background clinging and things. We've got neighbors here doing something in their truck, putting something in their truck or taking it out, I'm not sure what, but I'm going to work with that. All right. So today I'm going to talk about harmonic pairs, and I'm going to take some examples from Joe Pass, I think, transcription that I was checking out a little earlier. But to start out with, let's go over kind of the concept and how you might practice some of these things. So what is a harmonic pair, and why is it even called a harmonic pair versus a chord or something like that? Well, in music theory, we set a minimum for the number of notes in order to call something a chord. So that number is 3, right? So we have 3 notes, right? So at very minimum, if you play like a G major triad, okay, you have a chord, right? And then you could play inversions of that, okay? So we have 3 distinct notes. We have G, B, and D. And then those inversions of things are just different, right? They're just arranged in different ways, right? So first inversion, you have B, D, G. I'm on the first 3 strings here. And then you have D, G, B. So notice the same 3 notes. And then G, B, D. Okay. Now a lot of jazz progressions contain chords that have 4 notes. So remember that 3 is just the minimum to be called a chord. So if we have a G major 7, then we have 4 notes. So we've added in F sharp to our chord. So we have G, B, D, F sharp. So if I stack those in order, right, then we have that G major triad plus the sharp. So that gives us a little distinction between chords and harmonic pairs. So harmonic pairs, we still have some harmony, but we don't really have a chord. So let's take an example of that. So if we took B and D from that chord, out of that chord, kind of a partial of that chord, okay, and then we have a pair. And what's kind of interesting about this is that you could take a melodic line and attach a pair to it. So let's say we had okay, so that's a little bit of melody from the tune we're discussing this month, "Fly Me to the Moon." So we have, okay, okay, so just to kind of review that. So I'm on string 1, fret 8, 7, 5, 3, and then 1. So what's often done with harmonic pairs is you stack thirds. Okay, so what you could do is say, okay, well, I'm gonna put an A under that. So then you get, okay, and what happens there is that when those 2 notes interact, you just, it fills things out. It sounds different, and then it's kind of sharing some of that response in the speaker and everything. Okay, so it can kind of fill it out. And another thing, if you do this with rhythm section or soloing, it's sort of an easy easy way to make it sound like you're doing more than you really are in a sense. All right, so we stack thirds. So how do I come up with that other note down below? So if I go down in the key of C, we're in the key of C. If I go down 2 notes, do a skip. Okay, same thing for the next note, B. Same thing with A. And then G. And then F. Okay, and then as far as the fingers go, I would recommend trying to use fingers 1 and 3. Okay, and then when you have, so that's a minor third, and then when you have a major third, you use these first and second. Okay, you could also do, and some of these things after you play for a while, you might end up with certain preferences. So this also works well with just 1 and 2, and you end up using the same 2 fingers for each shape. You just have to make sure to spread out on those minor thirds. Now, on a kind of technical level, the harmonic pairs and thirds work really particularly well on strings 2 and 3. So if we were to take that same melodic little excerpt there, so what I'm doing is taking that same thing and moving it to 2nd string. So I'm on 13th fret, 12, 10, 8, and 6. Now when we attach, we can use this kind of motion. So we can have, let's say, fingers 2 and 3. Okay, and then when we do a major third, we can use a bar shape with the first finger. So we play that. Okay, and then so you could kind of set that up in that way. So that works pretty well. Now you can have all sorts of intervals, but that's just a very common interval to do. So you might take, and you can use this in your solos. You might take a melodic line that you're thinking of and then just attach something a third below. But we could have fourths. We could also use octaves, which technically is the same note. But something that I've done is some of the talked about in the George Benson tune. Which one was that? What's that called? Breezin', I think. Breezin'. So, and he does this on other tunes as well. But here's the basic concept. So you might play the octave, but you might put like a 5th or a 4th when you kind of listen to whatever you think might be kind of appropriate. Or you could use the triad too, but that's a little crunchier. But that's sort of the idea on some of these is to get it sounding a little bit crunchy, a little bit more edge to it. Because when you introduce another note, you just get a little bit of friction, kind of in a way, if you will, with the other tones. Okay. So there's an example with a 4th. Okay. So you could try doing 5ths, and what I would recommend doing is just kind of experimenting and using your ear to decide what you're going to do. So when it comes to thirds, you generally have a minor third or a major third when you're going through a key area. And then with fourths, you can have all perfect fourths except for one. So if you're doing pairs, and these can be done without the octaves, of course. So if we strictly went in the key and we did fourths, with that melodic line there, then we could play. So notice we had all fourths except this one. We have an augmented fourth. Okay. Okay, same thing if you're doing fifths, it's just going to come up in a different spots. So if we had this note here, okay, and you just kind of move down. Okay, so then you have to kind of think, well, how does that fit into the context of what the harmony is, right? Because if you're playing that and you're kind of thinking, okay, this melody note, so F is going to tend to want to harmonize with that C there, right? So that's something to kind of consider, and your ear can kind of guide you on that as well. And so doing some experimentation and maybe working with the fourths or the thirds, or you can mix them up, of course. But those are very common, especially the thirds. But you can do this with really any interval. Okay, and then you want to be a little bit cautious at some moments because we're going to have some other tones in there at certain times. So we have, let's say, so we have this note. So how are you going to harmonize that? So we have at one point we have the E major, right, which is the 5 of the 6 chord, and then we have this other tone here. So you might say, okay, right, so you can also create a kind of a counter melody there too, or some counterpoint by moving in different directions. And so there's really a lot to explore, but I think at the very foundation, try to work exclusively with some intervals, and see if you can kind of take it from there. So I'm going to try to find a couple examples. This is a tune I played last week a little bit. I improvised on this tune. I really like this one. It's called 500 Miles High. And this is a little excerpt that we'll look at from there to see what Joe Pass did on this particular tune with harmonic pairs. All right, so we'll just kind of see if I can get this really big here. I'm going to have some tab. I'm going to include some tab and just isolate this one little spot here. And okay, so I think I'll bring in my close-up of the guitar here as well. Get it all fitting in. All right, so let's check this out. Okay, so our chord here is a G minor 6, so let's start with that. That'll give us some context there. So G minor 6, so finger 1 on string 4, fret 2, finger 2 on string 6, fret 3, finger 3 on string 3, fret 3, finger 4 on string 2, fret 3. Okay. All right, you can see our fingers are already kind of in the shape. If you see that 3-3 or that B flat and D. Now let's back up here a little bit. So he plays 5, 5, which you could do with the first finger again. Okay, we have this note down here, so he plays. Okay, now that's pretty cool because it gives us sort of a modern sound on that chord there, because we have an F sharp. So we have this G minor 6. So anytime you play a 6 chord, I've talked a lot about this with my private students. When you have a 6 chord, it's sort of a question mark about what 7 might be, right? So in this case, we can hear that he's using, in the key signature, there's an F sharp. So he's using the major 7 kind of sound on that. So where you're taking harmonic pairs, you want to consider the melodic minor in this case. Okay. So then we get, so that's a basically a minor scale with a major 7. Okay. So a lot like Dorian with a major 7. And oftentimes in jazz we talk about the minor scale as being the having all the same corresponding notes as the Dorian, but we're not thinking in context of Dorian, but we call it minor scale. Okay, so there we have a segment there. So you can see he's not using harmonic pairs exclusively. He plays this note down here on string 5, fret 3. Right. So that's a pretty cool sound, and we think about Chick Corea and some of the, you might call it fusion period, but even maybe prior to that, sort of the hard bop. Think of musicians like Horace Silver, and just sort of that more common usage of the melodic minor and the minor major 7 kind of sound. It's really, I think, a nice fit on this, a nice choice in that moment. All right, so see if I can get back to where we were here. And so this is being live streamed to members on the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/FretPrince. I think they added some handles or something, so it might be @FretPrince. I think the old one should still work though. All right, so there's a little look at harmonic pairs and how that just kind of fills things out a little bit, so that you can really make it sound. On guitar we have this sort of opportunity, right, to have multiple voices, right, because we can play more than one note at a time, which we could kind of take for granted because it's just always available, and pianists too, but saxophone players, trumpet players, it's all kind of one note at a time. And so, but they could harmonize, of course, with one another, but we can emulate more the idea of having more than one person at a time. All right. Okay, so how are we going to practice all this? Well, what I'd recommend is taking a scale. Let's say you're working on Fly Me to the Moon, and see if you can run through your scale maybe a little more horizontally. And then you can pick a note above that in the scale. So this might be really hard at first, it might not be, but you can go through like that. Now you could also pick a note lower than it, which might be even more practical. Because if you're trying to play a melody, oftentimes you'll go for the higher note, and that will be your melodic shape, and then you're harmonizing something below it. Okay, so pick a note and then just kind of move up. Now, another thing you can do, so this is really effective on the strings 2 and 3 as well. So another thing you can do here is you can continue to use the first finger with the bar and then move. So that's another approach that works really well. The other one that I talked about was more like this. Now you can also use the pinky. Okay. Now you can, if you're tending to travel, I would then travel around a lot and not have a certain back and forth. And I would recommend playing with a certain consistent set of fingers, like 1 and 3, like that. And just kind of working with maybe 2 shapes and moving like that. Now, some other spots where you might find this really helpful too is other tunes like. Okay, so kind of name that tune. That's all blues, I believe. So you could have a pair here, sort of a transitional sort of sound, and then you kind of back to the chord in a sense. Okay, so we can have that back and forth. And what's kind of neat about that, and then some of the taking the blues and also thinking about a modal approach, is that you play almost the same thing there when you get the chord change to here. You play almost the same, but you have the B flat. So there you have some pairs that can kind of help you out there. Okay, so you pick some pairs out there as well for further on the tune, but we're not getting into that tune too much. But there are definitely some moments in various tunes where you can really work at bringing in those harmonic pairs. So I'd recommend taking it into different parts of your playing. You don't have to do it exclusively. You could play a melodic line and then see if you can kind of work it in. And just try to work it from there. But a lot of popular tunes use this. I think there's Brown Eyed Girl, which has some harmonic pairs. There's Lodi, I think, Creedence Clearwater Revival. So those are some rock type tunes that you might check out as well, just to get a sense for harmonic pairs. But find it in jazz and kind of everywhere here and there. So all right, well, that's going to conclude our talk for today. Thanks for checking out this live stream, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a great practice session.